Hello, my students. Welcome back. Good to see you. Today, we're going to be talking about rules for writing rules. Okay, so let's look at the first rule, which is never use a metaphor or a simile. Right. Now, I've done videos. I've done a video on metaphor and similes, and you can also play the game, and I'll post those links in the description box below. It says never use a metaphor or simile or other figures of speech, which you're used to seeing. And I've covered some of these already. The first rule is don't use these in your writing. Metaphors and similes make English language more vivid and descriptive. This is great for when you're speaking, but not for when you're writing. So, for example, he's a messy pig when he eats. This is an example. And it could be argued that people who used this without thinking, the reader might get confused and it would lose the meaning. Your reader might not know the metaphor and they might get confused. Well, are you talking about a pig or are you talking about a person? So that's why we don't use them in writing. Speaking, that's a different story. Never use a long word where a short one will do. This one is simple enough. People in particular, politicians, use long and confusing words. And, well, there's often a perfectly acceptable short word that can be used. So let's look at this sentence. The cut on my hand necessitated a few stitches. We don't need to use the word necessitated. We can simply say the cut on my hand needed a few stitches, right? So we don't need to write necessitated here. I am endeavoring to help students learn English. Oh my, endeavoring. Really? No. Simple is better. I'm trying to help students learn English. See, it's nice and clear, straightforward, and that's fine. We don't need to use the word endeavoring. The next one is, I made this note for you to remind you. Get your point across. Don't confuse people. All right, so the next rule is, if it is possible to cut a word out, always cut it out. Now be careful. This is not for Cambridge exams. That's a different form of writing. But generally when you're writing something like a letter or an essay, if you can cut the word out, cut it out. Here's an example. There's nothing intelligent about complicated sentence structures and excessive words. So use the simple sentences, cut out the unnecessary words, and you'll be a better writer and a better communicator, right? So here's an example of that. It doesn't matter what kind of coffee I buy, where it's from, or if it's organic or not. I need to have cream because I really don't like how the bitterness makes me feel. Oh, really? Really? Do I really need to know that you buy organic or you don't buy organic? What are you trying to tell me here? So let's cut out some of these words because we don't need all of those. I just need to know, or you just need to know, I add cream to my coffee because the bitter taste makes me sick to my stomach. See, simple, direct. I cut out all the unnecessary words. They're not needed in this situation. Never use the passive where you can use the active. That's a good one. I've done a video on active and passive voice, and the link is in the description box below. The passive is saying the ball was kicked by the boy, right? That's passive. The ball was kicked by the boy, right? And the active voice is the boy kicked the ball. That's your active voice. And Orwell says that using the passive is unnecessarily complicated, and it doesn't convey what actually happened, right? So, for example, in this example, the focus should be on the boy, not the ball. So, therefore, the emphasis should be on the subject. The emphasis should be on the subject. The boy kicked the ball. That's where the focus is. So when you're writing, use active. Number 5 is never use a foreign phrase. I have a lot of Chinese students that try to use Chinese parables or Chinese expression. No. Never use a foreign phrase or a scientific word or jargon. Now, I did a quick explanation about jargon, and I'll post that link in the description box as well. So, the English language has influences from several languages, like Latin, Greek, German, and others. But Orwell saw that foreign words were creeping into the English language as a way for people to impress, and yet confuse others. When an English word or a Saxon word is just fine, and the equivalents are there. Those are the ones you should use. Orwell wrote, bad writers, especially scientific and political writers, are nearly always haunted by the notion that Latin or Greek words are grander than Saxon ones, or American English. We have these words, for example. We have ameliorate, extraneous, let's say that again. I said it too fast. Extraneous and clandestine, right? Those are very big words. Ameliorate is, well, the simple word is improve, right? That's a simple word. Extraneous is irrelevant or external. That depends on how you're using the adjective, right? Extraneous, that's a fun word. Clandestine, what's the word for that? Simple word would be covert or secret. So if you look at these example sentences, you can easily put those words in instead, and people will understand that, and they don't need to carry around a dictionary on their phone. Well, number 6 is break any of these rules sooner than saying anything barbarous or primitive. Did you know that word? That's a good word. So that's number 6. And, it's a bonus rule. As Captain Jack Sparrow once said, these rules are more like guidelines. Arrgh. So these are guidelines. Remember, you have to think, what is it that you're writing? What are you writing this for? Was it for an exam? Is it for, a letter? What is it for? So they're guidelines. Again, if you don't know who Orson Welles is, I've put the links in the description box below.